Morning.
My street is that.
Good morning.
My street number.
We are ready to begin the Zoning Commission meeting. If everyone could please take their seats. And can we go ahead with roll call if we're ready?
Good morning, Commissioner Fowler.
Present.
Commissioner Cameron. Present. Commissioner Mendoza.
Present.
Commissioner Caliendo.
Here.
Commissioner Vinicor.
Here.
Commissioner Reichner. Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, if we could please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Lord, we ask your guidance today as we consider matters that will affect the safety and welfare of many people in our county. Help us to listen with open minds to matters that are important before us and to act on the matters that will benefit those who reside in our area. Keep our minds open and alert, our hearts compassionate, and our comments charitable. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Zoning Commission of Palm Beach County has convened at 9 a.m. in the Vista Center, Ken Rogers Hearing Room, VC 1W47, 2300 North Jog Road, West Palm Beach, Florida, to consider proposed applications and staff recommendations pursuant to the Palm Beach County Unified Land Development Code. The Commission takes final action regarding Class B conditional uses, subdivision variances, and Type 2 variances, and issues advisory recommendations on other requests. The Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County will conduct a public hearing at 301 North Olive Avenue, West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Jane M. Thompson Memorial Chambers, 6th floor, at 9:30 a.m. on applications not subject to Zoning Commission final action. Zoning hearings are quasi-judicial in nature and must be conducted to afford all parties due process. The Board of County Commissioners has adopted procedures for conduct of quasi-judicial hearings to govern the conduct of such proceedings. The procedures include the following. Any communication with commissioners which occurs outside the public hearing must be fully disclosed at the hearing. Applicants and persons attending the hearing may question commissioners regarding their disclosures. Such questions shall be limited solely to the disclosures made at the hearing or the written communication made a part of the record at the hearing. Any person representing a group or organization must provide documentation that the person representing the group has actual authority to do so regarding the matter before the commission. Any person who wishes to speak at the hearing will be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination. The applicant and county staff may cross-examine witnesses. Any other persons attending the hearing may submit cross-examination questions, including follow-up questions to the chair, who will conduct the examination. The scope of cross-examination is limited to the facts alleged by the witness in relation to the application. Public comment is encouraged, and all relevant information should be presented to the Commission in order that a fair and appropriate decision can be made. We have proof of publication.
Before we do that, if we could, we'd like to swear in our new commissioners.
Sorry, Wendy.
That's okay.
For our two new commissioners, just a very short swearing in that we do here. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will faithfully perform the duties of office as a member of the Palm Beach County Zoning Commission and will support and honor and comply with all applicable laws of the state of Florida and Palm Beach County, including the Unified Land Development Code and Palm Beach County Code of Ethics?
Yes. I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome, commissioners. Sorry, do we have proof of publication?
Motion to receive and file.
Second the motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Caliendo, second by Commissioner Vinicor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Do we have swearing in anyone that needs to be sworn in today?
All those wishing to testify and speak on today's items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. And just one thing about the minutes, if I can. I do believe page 5, the vote was 720, not 900. Page 9, to deny approval of A and B with prejudice of item 4A. If I recall that, is that correct?
We will check, but it is my recollection that two of the commissioners voted in favor of that item.
Yes, two, that's right. What happened was, with the first vote, the motion failed 270, and with the second vote, it passed 720. I recall that. So if you could check it then?
Let's postpone approving the minutes until next month so that we can review that information.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have amendments to the agenda?
We do have some amendments to the agenda. So item number 1, ZDOA 2024-1026, Palms West Hospital. We're looking to amend Exhibit C2 for the development order amendment, the all petition condition number 1 and number 2. Also, use limitation condition number 1 is proposed for amendment. And then on item number 2, ZV PDD 2024-1280L Car Wash, there is a request to modify the Type 2 variance for Exhibit C2 to add some missing and remove language. Item number 4, DOA 2024-1424 for Arrigo MUPD. We're looking to amend the development order amendment specifically in Exhibit C for the use limitation number 1. Item number 5, CA 2024-00609, Celtic Multifamily, modifying the Class A conditional use specifically in Exhibit C. Engineering number 6 is renumbered to number 5. Item number 6, SVCA 2024-760, Constru America 4160. We're looking to modify the subdivision variance staff report findings provided in Exhibit B to include the variance table. Item number 7, ZVABN CA 2024-1219, Sunspire Health, modifying the Type 2 variance conditions listed in Exhibit C2, specifically the all petition condition that was missing, and the variance condition number 1 to renumber it to 1 from 2, and add a number 2. And then to modify the compliance condition number 1 to correctly reflect the Zoning Commission rather than the Board of County Commissioners. On the regular agenda, B8, Z 2024-01037, Reserve at Eagles Landing, modifying the official zoning map amendment conditional overlay specified in Exhibit C. To add some engineering conditions that were inadvertently left out. Engineering condition 2, 3, A, B, and C, 4, 5, A, B, and number 6. Number 9, CA 2024-00746, Rawlings Estate subdivision, modifying the Class A conditional use specified in Exhibit C to delete landscape general condition number 1. Number 10, ABNZ 2024-00519, Haverhill Recovery Center, modify the official zoning map amendment conditional overlay condition specified in Exhibit C to delete engineering condition 9, specifically B, 9B. As an addition on the amendments to the agenda, item number 8, 2024-1037, Reserve at Eagles Landing. We believe we have no cards for this particular item, and the applicant is in agreement with the conditions as well as those that are on the add delete. We would like to move that from the regular agenda to the consent agenda. There's no objection. And then also on the record, the Haverhill. Number 10, ABNZ 2024-00519, Haverhill Recovery. We just want to note for the record, You've got the list of letters and contacts that we received. We have received several letters and emails in opposition for that particular project. And that is the end of my amendments.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion to adopt the agenda
As
as modified?
motion made by Commissioner Caliendo,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Williams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, starting with my left.
Just a point of clarification, then that means that item 8 was on the consent
Yes.
agenda.
That was part of her. part of what we needed to
Item
set.
8 was moved to the
Yes.
regular, to consent,
Consent.
sorry.
Consent.
Yeah.
So it's been moved, okay. Again, starting with my left, any disclosures, Commissioner Kammerer?
No disclosures to make.
Yes, item 7, Bradley Miller, I spoke with, and item 8, Josh Nichols, Jordan Sperling, and the applicant, Mr. Spiegel.
Yes, item 7, I also spoke with Agent Bradley Miller, and item 8, the same, spoke with the applicant's agents and the applicant.
Okay, Commissioner Caliendo?
None.
Yes, item 8, I received an email from the applicant, but never connected.
Okay. And I, too, spoke to the applicant on item number 8. Again, starting with my left, any conflicts or recusals? Commissioner Kammerer?
No, not.
No.
None?
None.
No.
I do have a recusal on item number 2, and I will need the form. I just confirmed with our attorney. My firm does work with Christ Fellowship. This particular project would not affect us, but I just didn't want to blur any lines, so I'd prefer to recuse myself on item number 2. Do we have any postponements, remands, or withdrawals to the agenda? We already went over all those, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Do I have an approval? Do we have to do a motion to pull off item
We
2?
have to do separate motions, so you could do item 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 as a motion for the consent, and then we will do a separate motion for number 2.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda for items 1 through 8 minus item number 2.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vinacore, seconded by Commissioner Caliendo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'll motion to approve consent agenda item number 2.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Vinacore, seconded by Commissioner Caliendo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the regular agenda.
For the regular agenda, that brings us to the last page, page 6, item number 9, CA 2024-00746, Rawlings Estate Subdivision. This particular request is a Class A conditional use to allow residential single-family subdivision within our rural area. And in absence of Ms. Lawrence, Carlos will be here to present, Carlos Torres will present the application. Oh, sorry, we'll have the applicant go first.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Matthew Barnes, Senior Project Manager at WGI, co-applicant for this application, along with Miskel Backman. Here with me, Scott Backman and Beth Schrantz from Miskel Backman. First things up first, I wanted to give you an overview of where exactly this project is, because it's in a part of the county that most of us probably don't go to on a regular basis unless you happen to live out here. So if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the intersection of Okeechobee Boulevard and Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. And then you go north from there, the most straightforward way. The most straightforward way to get to the property is if you go north on Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. and then you go left on Sycamore, and then south on 180th Avenue North. That's the road that the property has access onto, is 180th Avenue North, which is a road that is maintained by the Indian Trail Improvement District, as are all the roads in this area. So when our client first identified this property as a development opportunity, they first looked at the surrounding area in order to identify what a compatible use would be. Our client is certainly not the first developer to look at this property. 104 acres does not go unnoticed in Palm Beach County. But while previous developers had floated ideas of townhomes and single-family subdivisions on quarter-acre lots, our client realized right away that any proposed development here had to be compatible with the existing and surrounding lot pattern in the area. So before we even started filing applications with the county, we and our client met with the Indian Trail Improvement District. We spoke to neighbors in the Acreage Landowners Association, and we met with staff in numerous pre-application meetings and planning and zoning and land development and traffic. And then we filed the applications, and we've been in the process. We've gone through the arduous review process with the county. It's been about 9 months. On the land use side of things, we've already been to the Planning Commission twice. We've been to the Board of County Commissioners twice, and of course we're going back there at the end of the month. But what's in front of you today is a conditional use application, a conditional use request, I should say, and a preliminary subdivision plan for what is effectively 1 unit for every 2 acres. So what exactly is it you're considering, and why? So it's a Class A conditional use because it's a residential project that is greater than 50 acres and doesn't meet the access or dimension requirements for a planned development. And then it's also, of course, a preliminary subdivision plan, which I'll get into the details of the subdivision plan in a little bit. There's companion applications, which are not the purview of the Zoning Commission, but they are the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners have reviewed these. There's a privately initiated text amendment to both the comprehensive plan and the ULDC to create the Loxahatchee Estates overlay, and then there's a future land use map amendment. So here's a slide of where we've been and where we're going. It's personally a satisfying slide to me because you can see the green text is where we are here today. February 6th, we've been, every presentation we make, the green text moves down the page. We've got one more to go at the end of the month in 3 weeks with the Board of County Commissioners. But we started this process, as I mentioned before, we went to the Indian Trail Improvement District Board of Supervisors back in March of 2024. We've been to the Planning Commission twice. We've been to the Board of County Commissioners twice. And we filed the applications officially with the county in May of 2024. So I wanted to take a moment and explain, even though the proposed lot sizes are 1 acre, that effectively this development is a 1 unit for every 2 acre development. And wanted to talk about the density that results in. So while the lots in our proposed subdivision are exactly 1 acre, large portions of the property, almost half of the property, is dedicated for common areas such as a native upland preserve. We're preserving wetlands on the site. There's a stormwater management lake, roads, dry detention, recreation, etc. So even though the property is 104 acres and we're asking for 1 unit per acre, when you factor in all of the requirements under the modern ULDC to develop, the effective density, the effective lot size, I should say, is 1.93 acres is our effective gross lot size, right? Whereas that's just taking 104 acres divided by the 54 lots that we're proposing. Compare this to the acreage, which is the predominant, land use pattern in the area. They have an average lot size of 1.24 acres. And simply put, that's because properties in the acreage, are their property lines go to the center line of the road in the front, and they go to the center line of the drainage canal in the back, and there's no common areas. All the roads are privately owned, actually, and they're maintained by Indian Trail Improvement District. There is no, there is no upland preserve. There are no wetlands that have been preserved. There are no common area stormwater management tracts. So, to put it another way, if this property had been developed as part of the acreage, there would be 104, single-family lots on the property. But we're developing under the modern ULDC, so when you factor in all of the requirements, that gets pushed down to 54 lots, which again is effectively 1 unit for every 1.93 acres, round up to 2, right? So bottom line is we're actually less dense than the acreage, which is the predominant pattern around us. So I've showed you a little bit. This is a more detailed view of what the proposed subdivision plan is. North is turned to the right here, just to orient yourself. So the road that runs left to right on the page is 180th Avenue North, which is where the access to the subdivision would be. We've lined up our main access with Prado Boulevard, which is a main road that goes east and west through the acreage. And then, we've obviously, as you can see, we've concentrated 51 of the 54 lots onto the parcel to the north. There's actually 2 parcels for this property, right? There's one we call the north parcel and one on the south parcel. In the middle, there's a road that actually goes left and it goes back to the Indian Trail Improvement District impoundment facility. So 51 of the 54 lots are on the north parcel. It's laid out in a very symmetrical and efficient pattern where you have one loop road with the lake in the middle that is sized to meet the Indian Trail Improvement District and the Palm Beach County stormwater management requirements. The drainage collects into the lake and then is filtered and then discharges into the ITID canal to the west. And then on the south parcel, you can see there's only 3 lots there that all front directly onto 180th Avenue North. There's 3 different wetlands that are proposed to be preserved, totaling just under 8 acres. And then per the ULDC, we're meeting the 25% upland preserve set aside. So that equals 21 and a little over 21 and a half acres that we're preserving as a native upland preserve on that south parcel. So as you've seen in the staff report, probably that, we're in agreement with all conditions except for there are conditions from PREM regarding a request for 2 acres, a little over 2 acres to be set aside for a future fire station. We are in a disagreement with that request, and I'll explain why. They've stated that the expected response time from Station 22, which you see in the top of the slide, is, by their estimation, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. We hired Jeff Collins, who's a former Palm Beach County fire chief, and he's analyzed what the actual response time will be. And we've hired a company to go from Station 22 to the property at multiple times throughout the day: morning rush hour, afternoon rush hour, middle of the day. And the worst average of those response times is 4 minutes and 11 seconds to travel from the station to the site. And then per standard Palm Beach County protocol, there's a 2 minute and 30 second, what they call a turnout time, which is the time from when you receive a call and the staff is mobilized and the truck leaves the station and hits the local road. So when you add 4 minutes and 11 seconds with 2 minutes and 30 seconds, our projected actual response time to the property is 6 minutes and 41 seconds, and that's below in the standard in the comprehensive plan is 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So we believe we meet the response time, and that's why we respectfully disagree with the conditions from PREM. Like any conditional use, there's the 8 standard criteria that are in the ULDC. We've asserted in our application materials, and your staff has agreed that we meet all 8 of those standards. Not surprisingly, then your staff is recommending approval with the conditions. Again, we're in agreement with all of the conditions except for the PREM conditions. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll turn it over to staff to do their presentation.
So, good morning, Commissioner. My name is Carlos Soros from zoning. The project that we're looking at right now is Rolling Estates, located west side of 180 Avenue, approximately 0.3 miles south of West Sycamore. The existing future land use is rural residential, 1 unit per 10 acres, and with a zoning designation of agricultural residential. The site has a total of 104 acres. The proposed development is on a split parcel, the larger parcel located to the north and the smaller parcel located to the south. The application has, as the applicant has indicated, is being proposed concurrently with a future land use amendment to change the future land use designation from rural residential 1 unit per 10 acres to allow residential 1 unit per 1 acre, and a privately proposed ULDC amendment to establish a new overlay that would allow the development. The request is a Class A conditional use to allow a single-family subdivision for a residential project with more than 50 acres pursuant to the thresholds indicated in Table 4A9B of the ULDC. In addition to this, the application also is being analyzed by the county's Facility Development and Operations Department, FDO, and Fire Rescue. They have closely collaborated with the request, conditional use, and the future land use amendment, and based on their analysis are recommending a dedication to Palm Beach County of an equivalent 2% of gross acres for the future fire rescue station. After my presentation, Eric, I believe is here, will be also providing a presentation on this. The preliminary subdivision plan indicates a total of 54 single-family lots, 51 located on the north and 3 parcels located on the south, 1 water management tract, approximately 6.75 acres of wetland, located on the south portion of the development. His staff has analyzed the provided documentation and has determined that the request is in compliance with the standards as indicated in the code. Therefore, we recommend approval of the Type 2 variances request and recommendation of approval of the abandonment, of the Class A conditional use. Now, I'd like to turn the mic to Eric from SDO for a presentation.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And for those of you who were newly sworn in this morning, congratulations and thank you for your service. This is a trial by fire, pun intended. For the record, I am Eric McClellan. I serve as the Director of the Strategic Planning Division for the county's Facilities Development and Operations Department, or FD&O for short. I'm also joined this morning by some senior representatives of County Fire Rescue, and they'll be assisting me with any responses to questions that would be best addressed by those personnel. But just to explain the relationship, Fire Rescue is the service provider, the siting decision maker. They set priority for new station delivery, and they monitor the data that drives these decisions. FD&O, on the other hand, is the real estate and construction service provider for Fire Rescue. And what's important, you heard from Mr. Barnes, is that our county comprehensive plan has a standard of 7 minutes and 30 seconds for fire rescue response time. And that is the benchmark by which new stations are measured, in addition to some other criteria which I'll be sharing with you. Just by comparison, the response time to the subject property service area was 8 minutes and 18 seconds in FY23, and that grew to 8 minutes and 29 seconds in FY24. And the estimated response time to the subject property, as you heard through our own analysis and application of industry standards, is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And simply put, that condition raises concern for elevated risk to life and property by introducing additional population that has not been anticipated by land use and facility planning to date. So what we're here to talk about is a difference of opinion in adequate public facilities. Again, in the applicant's justification materials, you can see highlighted on the left, they expressly state adequate public facilities are provided and refer to the fire rescue review letter for the land use amendment. That's on the right, where they clearly said this estimated response time is 10 minutes and 30 seconds, and owners need to be aware that is elevated compared to the standard. want to give you some policy background. So the 7 minutes and 30 seconds. This slide is an excerpt from the county's comprehensive plan. The first thing you see highlighted there, that is memorialized where 7 minutes and 30 seconds is the county adopted standard level of service. The next policy you see highlighted there are those criteria that help fire rescue determine when new facilities are warranted. And there are 3 points here that we feel are met by this proposed application. One, average trend analysis for stations in adjoining response areas indicates an escalation of alarm activity and travel time. I can tell you we really have no station that's not seeing elevated call volumes as the county continues to build out. Development activity increases in areas where fire rescue does not have a 5-minute travel time. We contend this site does not have a travel time of 5 minutes. And the number of calls with an over 8-minute travel time for a geographically specific area can be identified as excessive and increasing in number. And I have slides that will show you that exact point. Translating now from policy into regulations. When you think of concurrency, I know you always think about traffic, water, and sewer. A lot of people don't think fire rescue. As you can see here highlighted, fire rescue is a concurrency service provider in Palm Beach County. And level of service has to be met in order for a development order to be approved. So our recommended solution to all of this is the recommended dedication of what's equivalent to 2% of the land area, a 2.08 acre site, in order to position the property to be served by fire rescue facilities. Some more background. I know it's not within the purview of the Zoning Commission, but Mr. Barnes referenced a pending comprehensive plan amendment to accommodate this application, requesting a land use change from rural residential 10, 1 unit per 10 acres. And as you can see highlighted, that's a land use we typically see in the ex-urban and rural tiers. This site sits in the rural tier. What they are requesting is a land use of low residential 1, which is an urban land use. And as you can see here, urban land uses are allowed in the urban and suburban tier, which this site is not. They are accomplishing this through policy language they are proposing be added to the comprehensive plan. So it's our position that while we can engineer text to rewrite policy, that doesn't automatically result in services being rendered and delivered. You also heard Mr. Barnes state that they don't meet the frontage requirement for a planned unit development, and that's why this application is before you as a Class A conditional use and not a planned unit development. This is memorialized on this slide. We are not in disagreement with the means in which this application is being processed. However, what is foregone when you are not a PUD, even though you meet that threshold and you don't meet the access and you're going through a different process? By default, a planned unit development, as many of you are aware and have seen time and time and time again, has a mandatory 2% dedication for public civic facilities. That's precisely how we deliver facilities and locations that are being urbanized and that are developing. But we forego that by right dedication by virtue of the Class A conditional use. It is still a conditional use. The code does still provide us the right to impose conditions of approval. It is just not a default 2% set aside per the way the regulations are drafted. We looked at other Class A conditional uses to allow subdivisions of this type, and what we found is there have been none. This is the first, this is the only. So as you can see, there are a number of very unique and interesting aspects of this particular application, and we have to look at every application on its own merits as a standalone proposal. Now I want to transition and talk a little bit about fire rescue facilities and response time. And before I can talk about this specific area, I think you need to understand a little bit about the bigger picture of the fire rescue system. This slide shows you some statistics from FY24. You can see the call range of stations throughout unincorporated Palm Beach County range anywhere from 739 a year. That would be Station 17 at Jog and the Beeline, fairly remote area, very large service area, to as high as almost 7,000 calls in the case of Station 45 in western Delray Beach, which happens to serve Kings Point. You can see the average travel time range for these stations that are on the slide is anywhere from 3 minutes and 33 seconds to 7 minutes and 13 seconds, within that 7.5-minute standard. An average travel time overall in the system is about 5 minutes and 16 seconds, well below that 7-minute 30-second standard. Station 22, as you heard, is the station that serves the subject property. This is call volume for that fire rescue station over the past 5 years. And what you can see is there is a steady increase in call volume to this station. No surprise, this serves the city of Westlake, one of the most rapidly growing communities in Palm Beach County and perhaps in the state. By my estimation, looking at aerials, Westlake is probably about 60% build out. So we can expect to see continued growth in the future years. You'll also see the trend for those critical calls that are over 8-minute travel time for response. And clearly that trend line is on the rise. So what Fire Rescue did in response to this application, looking at the proposed increase in density, the additional population that would result if the applications are approved, they started looking at a new service area. They realized, hey, this is an outlying area. It's served from an urban fire rescue station, but it is serving a rural periphery. The red boundary you see on this slide is the limits of what could be a future fire rescue service boundary. And within that boundary today, without this application being approved, without any other changes in current conditions, there are over 2,000 individual parcels within this boundary. The yellow calls you see are the actual calls for service in the last fiscal year. The green dot, that is the intersection of Sycamore and 180th. I asked Fire Rescue, what is your most optimal location out here, if you had your pick? And they landed on that intersection. And we looked at properties at this intersection. And what we found is there's an Indian Trail Improvement District park at the northeast corner. We don't advocate, horse trading one public facility for another. We found other homesteaded properties that are less than the acreage we would need in order to deliver a facility at those locations. And in another property, I think it was the southwest corner, it's about a 10-acre parcel, much more than we need to deliver a fire rescue station. So I then asked them, look at this property. Is this property a viable location from which to deliver fire rescue services and for this project to meet level of service? And the conclusion was yes. It might not be the ideal location, but it is a viable location. Why is that? It's centrally located within this entire rural area. It provides access to the roads that service this area. So we're not coming to you as a land grab, per se. We're coming to you saying, this is a solution, and we're looking to partner. As we're increasing density through a comprehensive plan change, this is a way for us to come together in this project to be able to meet its level of service. This is a 5-year call volume within that service area. And as you can see, it is also steadily growing each year. This is without the additional lots and dwelling units that would result from this application. You can also see those 8-minute travel time trending up. Those are what we do not like to see. So we said, okay, what happens if we take this service area, pull it out of the Station 22 service area? Does that station still have enough service volume to exist on its own? We aren't in the business of duplicating services and having too many facilities. This is the result for Station 22, if you were to pull out the information from this proposed service area. You can see there are still ample calls to justify that station's existence, even without this area being part of the service area. You can see the number of calls over that critical 8-minute travel time kind of start to level out. We drop it significantly. About 25% of the calls are then addressed by a new facility. If we look at the subject site and its specific demand on services, at present, 0. There have been no calls because there's nothing on the property. It's vacant, there's no occupancy, there's no use. At the current land use designation, 1 per 10 acres, the mathematical translation, the average responses, the average calls per household in Palm Beach County, that translates to about 1.5 call per year, mathematically. If we look at the impacts of the proposed land use change with 54 dwelling units, we approach almost 8 calls per year. So the effect of the land use change is a 5.4 times or greater number of calls for service for fire rescue in an area that has a greater than 8-minute travel time. Again, I'm not going to repeat all those policies, but it meets all of those indicators that this area is ripe for a facility. Again, our recommended solution is to apply the same standard as this sort of PUD, the 2%. It's a 2.08 acre site. It's consistent with other sites we construct for fire rescue. We feel it's the minimum amount of land area that we would need to deliver a facility in this location. In Florida, under Florida law, there is a two-step analysis for what's called an exaction or a dedication. First, there must be an essential nexus between a legitimate government interest and the exaction. And perhaps it's a bit presumptive on my part, but I don't think anybody would disagree it's the government's interest to protect life and property. That's what this is all about. We've also got the policies I mentioned before. This is directly tied to county policy. What's necessitating a new station? We also get into requirement for roughly proportional between the dedication and the extent of impact of the development. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a mathematical calculation, but I think it's cleanest and clearest, perhaps easiest to understand, to put it mathematically. And again, through the land use change, we have a 5.4 time impact of the existing land use, the additional almost 6.5 calls per year. The site-specific response time by siting in this location is reduced from that 10.5 minutes, which I know is debated, and we can debate and discuss that all day long, down to 3 minutes by siting in this location. So we would achieve a 71% reduction in the response time for a dedication of only 2% of the land area. As I mentioned before, that 2% is the least amount of land we feel is required to deliver a facility in this location, based upon the building footprint, based upon the maneuverability of the fire rescue vehicles, based upon the need for a parking lot on site, based upon the need for setbacks, based upon buffering, and based upon the 50-plus other fire rescue stations we have worked on throughout unincorporated Palm Beach County. And lastly, what is the difference we're really talking about? 54 units is their proposal. If you take the two lots, we're talking a 52 lot or unit subdivision. So a difference of 2 units when we're starting from a base of 1 unit per 10 and 10 lots under the current maximum potential of the land use designation in the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to go over this slide in detail. This is responding to a question that was raised at Transmittal asking, is there enough infrastructure for fire rescue to serve from this location? Undoubtedly. All this slide is showing is we already operate a station in the acreage. Same size roads, same water and sewer supply, so there's really very little difference. We have complete confidence in our ability to operate from this proposed location. So again, to close, in order to meet the level of service, our recommendation as part of the land use amendment and as part of this conditional use amendment is that a 2.08 acre dedication be provided for a fire rescue facility. With that, I conclude. I'm happy to answer any questions and will not refrain from deferring to my fire rescue colleagues as well.
All right, thank you. Do I have comments?
Yeah, I have a question, if I may. What is it going to take for the county to actually build it? Let's say you got the 2%. I mean, is this...
Into the mic, I'm sorry. I know
I'm sorry. What is it going to take for the county to build it? In other words, dollars and cents, is it allocated? Will it be allocated? Would this be another one of those projects that we hear what you're saying but doesn't really happen for 10 years? Or is it something that if you had the 2%, you would actually go out there, put the money in the budget, and build the station?
I'm going to take a first stab at responding to that, and if Fire Rescue would like to correct me or compliment anything I say, I'm going to ask them to come up. But financially, this would probably be about a $10 million investment in order to design, permit, and construct the station. That does not include the equipment, the trucks, the outfitting, the gear. Doesn't include the personnel. That's an operating cost. But from a capital standpoint, based upon today's cost and looking forward a few years, probably roughly $10 million. We're not asking for any contribution towards that $10 million.
I know that.
The land is basically the start of our planning process. Really, the concern is that if we don't even have a site to start from, we are way behind the curve. So perhaps the land use is putting the cart before the horse. The condition is positioning us so that we can be able to respond whenever Fire Rescue 1 prioritizes the station. I'll be honest and tell you this is not the highest priority station in the county. I think last month my department was assigned 4 or 5 other new stations to bring online. This wasn't one of them. So it's going to be a minute. And our position
what is that minute? Is it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, approximately?
Not 1 year. We couldn't even design and permit in 1 year.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
So realistically, I would say probably closer to 10.
Okay.
Agree, disagree?
Madam Chair, if I may, I just wanted to point of clarification, and Eric, maybe you can help expound on this. There's a lot of, interconnectivity and discussion on the future land use amendment versus what's before you today, which is the zoning application. These will both be going to the board at the end of the month. The condition being referenced here, which would require the facility dedication, is based upon board's approval of the future land use amendment condition. If the board approves a future land use condition at their meeting later this month, that condition would then flow down into this zoning development order. So I just wanted to clarify that, and is my understanding correct?
Yes. You're completely correct. And let me also caveat my response. We understand this project's not going to come out of the ground tomorrow. It's going to take this own project, if the land use is approved and if the zoning is approved, time to go through the subdivision review process, to go through the platting process, for all of the residential units to be designed and permitted. So we're not expecting there to be a 10-year gap necessarily, but we know all these projects are years in the making. We're just trying to position ourselves to be able to render the service as soon as we are able.
Good morning. Assistant Chief Dave Woodside, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. We look at the comp plan and we look at two things, station location and the amount of response, and we develop our plan based on both of those things coming together, where they meet, where we get over 1,293 calls a year. That's really, according to the comp plan, what say, okay, now we need to put a station there based on that. So those things drive when a station, where a station goes together.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments from the commission? Questions? No?
Can I step in really quick? So I just want to remind, as Scott had mentioned, so our zoning application is contingent on the planning application. So if the planning application was presented to the Planning Commission and they did recommend transmittal of the request with the PREM conditions, it then proceeded on to the Board of County Commissioners. They did not include the PREM conditions in the transmittal. However, they wanted to discuss it further when it came back to them. So it's now with you as the commission for the zoning portion of it to rezone it, and obviously if the board doesn't take action or denies the planning portion of it, our application is dead. So, but we have to bring this application forward to be consistent with the proposed application. So the conditions that are included are with the understanding that the board would
approve it,
approve the PREM conditions. So this is very similar to the project that was before you, the Commerce Center project that was before you last month or the month before that, where we had PREM, actually it was November, PREM conditions proposed because they were contingent on the future land use change on that one. So.
I just had one question, and just for clarification. So the county is asking for dedication of the 2 acres or the land that would get that. And then I'm not trying to solve a problem here, but you had said in that ideal corner intersection, there was 10 acres. I'm assuming that that's owned by an individual and understanding the development and how they're looking at this, and they don't want to give up their land. I was just, and maybe this is more for the applicant, if there would be any conversations they'd be willing to have with the owner of that land to then create the best situation. Anyway, it's just, I'm not asking anybody to answer it, but it was just in my head that maybe that would be a viable solution. So that's it.
Can I ask a question, please? Just would removal of that 2 acres, would that impact the number of workforce housing units or anything?
No, the proposed units on the subdivision plan is still 54, but if they were to include it, it might have an impact, right? No?
Good morning, Travis Goodson, subbing in for Brian Davis on behalf of the Planning Division. So currently, the land use amendment has a 10% workforce housing requirement. So it would be a 10% of that number. So currently, as the number of units is 54. We round down to from 5.4 to 5 units. The 52 would be 5.2, so it's still 5 units workforce dedication.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments from the commission? No. Scott, did you have something?
Just a reminder to allow for rebuttal from the applicant.
Yep. The applicant have any comments, questions they'd like to address?
Hi, good morning. Scott Backman on behalf of the applicant. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I don't think so. I did have a statement prepared that I wanted to read, just kind of reiterating what Matthew said during his presentation with regard to our objection to the condition. I do want to make it clear we've been working very closely with the county staff team that presented here this morning, having multiple conversations. I don't think we're in agreement that 6.5 calls a year warrant a 2-acre justification for something that should be planned from a policy standpoint through the capital improvements program. So just reiterating our objection for the record. We understand obviously this is going to move forward to the county commission. This project otherwise I think has been very well received by everyone around it, working its way through the staff process, and we look forward to continuing to do so between now and BCC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I can't see anything. Try. Oh, no, I can't see
Okay.
anything at all.
I can't make a motion.
I'll move approval.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Caliendo to approve. Do we need to identify what we're doing, though? We do need to say.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I think
Yes.
actually the motion should be recommend approval. I think it was written
As it was
incorrectly.
written, right?
And to recommend approval, yes.
Okay.
Yes, my
Subject
motion
to
is
the conditions.
recommend approval
Subject to
as
Okay.
per the conditions, yes.
Sorry, so I've got a motion by Commissioner Williams. I've got you're still second by Commissioner Caliendo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Okay. That will bring us to item 10 on our agenda, ABNZ 2024-00519, the Haverhill Recovery Facility. We have two requests before the board, which include a development order abandonment and an official zoning map amendment. The abandonment does not need any action by the zoning commission, but the item B will need a recommendation from the zoning commission. We will turn it over to the applicant for a presentation, and then it will be followed by staff.
Okay, thank you. And I would just like to say, we can see there's a lot of folks in the audience that are here, and we've got a lot of comment cards as well as other letters that were put in. So all I'm asking is that you please be quiet, let the folks do their presentations. There will be time to speak, so just be professional, please, and no comments from the audience at this time. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, members of the commission, staff. My name is Jeffrey Lynn, Beakley, Meyer, Udell, and Lynn, 2385 Northwest Executive Center Drive, Boca Raton. Scott, nice to see you. I'm here representing the applicant on this application. I wanted to give you a very quick, brief overview of why we're here today, and then my client will get up and do the presentation along with his design professionals. In short, this site was approved back in 2018. I believe it had agricultural zoning. It was rezoned to a PUD to afford and allow what was referred to as a Type 3 congregate living facility. At the time, the county was classifying different types of group homes and whatnot as CLFs, congregate living facilities, Type 3. One of the uses that used to be approvable under that classification was behavioral health care, residential behavioral health care, which we colloquially call addiction treatment. I believe that's why the residents are here today to object to that. I want to clarify that the application before you today is a rezoning. The reason for the rezoning is because back again in 2017 or 2018, when there was a rezoning for that use was never implemented. The land is now changing hands, and the desired use desires to be implemented, which is behavioral health care. Since that time in 2021, I worked with not only Ms. Vinokur, but staff and whatever to rewrite the county code, and that was adopted as ordinance 2021-022, which created a new use category of skilled nursing residential treatment. And so that is the appropriate classification. That's a permissive zoning use that was created specifically to continue to encourage and allow drug, alcohol treatment, behavioral health care, mental health treatment to be cited in the county, because we've all recognized for the past 10, 15, 20 years what zoning codes have done to prohibit drug and alcohol treatment and behavioral health care in our county. Since that time, working as I have with the county staff, with Dave Ehrenberg's task force, which Ms. Vinokur has been a member of for, like myself, for 10 years, Palm Beach County is again reclaimed to be the pinnacle, the diamond, the gold standard for behavioral health care in our country. And other counties and other states copy what we do because of the great work we've all done together. And one of the things that we've done is to create a permissive zoning code to allow the appropriate citing of these uses consistent with the American Disabilities Act, consistent with the Fair Housing Act, and directives from the Department of Justice and the Supreme Court that these uses cannot be stuck in corners of institutional uses or industrial uses, that these kinds of uses, through the Olmsted case, says they're more appropriate to be in residential-esque neighborhoods. So this is a residential neighborhood, but this property itself is not primarily residential. It's on a corner. Again, it was approved for a congregate living facility type 3 that the county used to use as the zoning designation for inpatient treatment. Again, that use wasn't implemented. It's now 2025, obviously, and now the use is to be implemented and upgraded and money invested into it. Again, my client will get up in a moment. Again, I did notice that there have been some cards or objectional cards given to you. We've not received any of those. We've not heard of any of those. This is the first time we're hearing of any objection, except for when my client met with the neighbors. I believe you'll hear it in August, and met and try to work out some concerns that they had. We are open to any other conditions or concerns that the board or the residents may have to make anyone comfortable. But I can say as a factual matter, as a matter of law, that this is a completely compatible use that is intended to be in these kinds of neighborhoods by design. And that's why the zoning code has created a more permissive zoning category. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my client, Mr. Michael Silverman, who has a presentation for you. And of course, we are all available to answer any questions. And if there's any kind of interactive dialogue you'd like to have for questions, I really would ask that you please present those today. So thank you. With that, Mr. Silverman.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michael Silverman. We're working on this project at 30.
Speaking in the mic, it is hard to hear.
Hi, this is Michael Silverman. We've been working on this project at 3037. Good morning. This is Michael Silverman. I am working on the project at 3037. Is a development site. We've been working on this project for in excess of 2 years. How do we? Oh, this. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the history here. We're going to talk about the site details and how it's compatible with the surrounding area, our proposed development plan, the development details, the consistency of the site, as well as the need for the site in the county. So this is an area map which highlights some of the greater Palm Beach County and delineates where the site's located, pretty central in the area. You can see in red some of the other healthcare facilities and hospitals, et cetera, surrounding the general area. This is another zoomed-in trade area map we put together, which has a mile radius of the site. The site's bounded to the west by the Turnpike, to the east by approximately Village Boulevard, Roebuck Road to the north, and Okeechobee to the south. When you look at this district and you drive around the area, you see a considerable amount of diverse uses. You know, our site is at the lighted intersection of Haverhill and Community Drive, where the road dead ends into the site. We are surrounded by low-rise and mid-rise residential. There's multiple Publixes within the area, gas stations along Okeechobee, heavy equipment, sales and service centers. Coulter Homes is building a 600-unit planned development to the south. So there's really a diverse mix of uses in this neighborhood, and the site is located directly on a main road, Haverhill Road, with Community Drive intersecting it. These are a couple photos of the site, the lower left and lower right hand. I think at the lower right, we're looking at tennis club towers, and at the lower left, you're looking at the northeast section, which is a mid-rise residential property. On the lower level, in the middle, that is some homes that are, if you're traveling west on Community Drive, just west of Village, and then some of the other sites on the top are surrounding and around the property along Haverhill. So you see that there is a mix of uses in the area. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Stephen, our land planner, who's been working with the county to talk about the site, the existing zoning, and the process that we have undertaken with the county, both land use and zoning, to get to a point where we receive recommendation for approval for both. Stephen?
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, Board. For the record, Steve Fisha with Jessamine Design. I'm one of the design professionals working with the applicant. Kind of bringing it into a local level, we're looking at a 3.97 acre site. It's a 2-parcel assembly. Community Drive on the south, Haverhill on the east, and then Horseshoe Circle on the north. Current land use, MR5, medium residential, 5 units per acre, and as you heard from Mr. Lynn, this was rezoned from agricultural to a PUD back in 2018 with a conditional use of a Class 3 congregate living facility, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we got there in a second. What I do. All right, so why we're here. So left is what I just described. We're here to propose to change the land use from MR5 to institutional. Zoning also to institutional from PUD. Abandon the conditional use that this board and your county commission approved back in 2018 for a institutional and public and civic use, which is allowed within the institutional planning and zoning designation. We're also requesting to increase the beds from 47 to 100, which comes from a moderate square footage increase from 26,000 to 31,000. So a little bit more about
Excuse me, can we turn that phone off?
Like I said, back in 2018, I'm going to go in chronological order here. So this application came before this board on November 1st, where they requested a setback variance on the south side from 25 to 14 feet, and I'm going to show that here in a second. And what we already talked about, the 2 resolutions that were before this board and the Board of County Commissioners on November 26th. I do want to note that all of these passed unanimously with all 3 presentations. And this is the site plan that was approved. It's mostly comprised of 1 large building with 2 accessory buildings on the east side, which those are currently existing. Majority of the 26,000 square feet is in that larger building. Primary access from Haverhill Road, which you'll see how our site compares to that. Emergency access on the Horseshoe Circle. 30-foot rear setback, which is your left side, the number 4 you're looking at there. I do want to note that it's a 20-foot required setback there, and I'm going to show you what we're proposing here in a second. And then this application was also had the condition to show a 6-foot wall around for the incompatibility buffers on the north and west. These were the approved elevations: single story, 1 large building. And here's the technical site plan of what we're proposing. And if we see 100 beds, 31,000 square feet, primary access from Haverhill Road, which will align with the signalized intersection of Community Drive, and then you'll access the site from the south side. Parking on the east, and then buildings situated in the central part of the site. Similar emergency access onto Horseshoe Circle, that's mandated by your fire department. And then I do want to point out the number 4 there, the rear setback. Remember, we just looked at 30 foot was what was originally originally approved, 20-foot required, we're almost tripling that. So we're setting the closest building 113 feet back from the west property line, which is far in excess of what was originally approved and what's actually required. The north setback onto Horseshoe, we're keeping largely consistent with what was already approved in 2018, and we're keeping the 6-foot concrete wall and the incompatibility buffers. And if we look at the incompatibility buffers, so you got a 20-foot buffer, you have the wall, and you actually have landscape on both sides. And in addition, on the west buffer, we're proposing to relocate all the relocatable trees on the site outside of the buffer. So this is in addition to the buffer. So you're actually getting your required landscape buffer, which is only 15 feet. We're proposing 20. The wall, landscape on both sides, plus the relocated trees, plus we've situated the retention pond and open space there on the southwest corner of the site. So trying to be sensitive to the surrounding communities and not have the buildings right up against the property line. I do want to note we went to planning board back in November. We received a recommendation of approval, and we also received a recommendation of approval from your zoning staff. So your experts have deemed this site compatible with the surrounding uses. We've met all the technical requirements to warrant their recommendation. And if we go into actually how these buildings are going to be used, we're proposing one common building in the central part of the site, 6,000 square feet. That'll have a food facility, open space. We'll have the operator up here a little more to talk about how that building will be used. And then 3 residential buildings, and then some amenities in the central part of the site. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Michael.
Thank you, Stephen. So we wanted to create this slide to talk about the prior approved use and what's the difference between the two uses. So as you can see, back in 2018, as we've said, and we're reinforcing, the site was approved for what at the time would have permitted the use that the applicant's looking to get today by right. So, you know, when we got involved here, we noticed that there was a need in the community as outlined in the Palm Beach County behavioral health studies that have been put out. And furthermore, you know, we felt that the site was consistent with the neighborhood and that we would build a campus-style facility that was a place of reflection where people could heal, something that's needed in the community. So when you look at what an ALF does, you know, it's people that are living in a facility, not for a night or two. They are residing there. They are having people take care of them, personal services, and you know. But what's different about the ALF versus our use is that typically, given the age of some of those residents, sometimes there's higher frequency of fire rescue trucks and whatnot coming to the site. Something that I mentioned previously, Stephen said about an access point. The property is along Horseshoe Drive, and that is a road that the property granted an easement. That is only a emergency exit as mandated by fire. There will be no cars coming in and out on a regular basis, creating traffic within the properties to the west and north of us. So I wanted to make that statement. When you look at the behavioral health facility, there's similar conditions. People are staying there for a longer period of time. Typically 30 days, can be 60 to 90 days. Those residents aren't hospitalized. They are being cared for. They are getting help, like our brothers, our sisters, and our neighbors, maybe someone in your family. And it's a 24-hour secured, structured environment where people are in group therapies, you know, individual therapies, and working on really themselves. And, you know, when we came up with this plan, we said, who's the right fit? And we came up with an operator who, you know, I've known for a long time, and it's Zinnia Health. Zinnia Health is in the community, operating in South Florida, as well as nationally with best outcomes. Harrison Katzen from Zinnia is here today, and he's going to briefly speak about his company and whatnot.
I'm sorry, unless we have consent, I mentioned this previously, we have consent for Jeffrey Lynn to speak on this item, but if we don't have written consent, then, you know, speaking, if you're not the applicant, I'm uncomfortable with the speech, and I've relayed this to you previously.
I had filled out a consent notarized form, so, for Harrison, yes, ma'am.
I haven't seen it. Have we seen it? No.
It was submitted. I mean,
The time.
you have it?
We have Jeffrey Lynn's, but I don't have.
I have it in my car. Well,
And I think we may be at time as well. Yeah.
Well, so I'll keep going then. So Zinnia Health, they have facilities around the country, including 4 in South Florida. Here's a map that shows where they are throughout the country. I believe there's 11 facilities they currently operate. Locally in Palm Beach County, they operate Singer Island Health. They operate Dignity Healing in Pahokee. They have a facility in Deerfield as well as North Miami. This is one example of their facility in Singer Island, and just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. I believe they've been operating there for about 4 years. And so when we looked at the facility and its consistency with the neighborhood, we said, what are we going to build? And that came back to zoning, right? Single story, low rise, low scale, beautiful property. Kind of like they have in Singer Island, except that was an existing structure, so there are some 2-story elements. We also looked at another comparable facility in downtown West Palm, not owned by Zinnia, called Beachway. This is on Dixie, and this is just west of where Related's building the Ritz-Carlton residences, and also just north of the Nora retail and mixed-use development, over $1 billion south of Palm Beach Lakes. These facilities are ingratiated in the community in settings similar to where this site's located. So we did a demographic comparison. We looked at the subject site, Beachway, and the Singer Island facility operated by Zinnia. We looked at the average household incomes. We looked at the population within 1 and 3 miles, and we looked at the home values, as well as the traffic counts.
2 minutes.
They all seem pretty similar. And what's amazing is that the property values don't go down. People want to live around in these areas, and it has no negative effect on the neighborhood or the property values. So we know there's a need for the site. You know, Palm Beach County put out this behavioral health and substance abuse plan every year, and this is something that is written because the county knows they need to continue to work on solving the problem, which they've done a great job at so far. And what's the goal here? There's a mission, and it's to help, it's to ensure access to personalized care, to create and make safety. So here's some facts, right? 58 million people have mental illness in the country, 14 serious mental illness in the past year. 50 million people are in recovery from substance use and mental health problems. Almost 10% of adults in Palm Beach County have mental health issues, every month. This is a real need, and I'm sure people within the community are dealing with these issues themselves, and we're here to help. Here's additional slides that have been put out by National Alliance for Mental Illness, talking about 3 million people in Florida having mental health issues. This facility is going to help alleviate those concerns. Behavioral health data in Florida. We're number 1 in the nation with 3 million adults having issues. 7th in the prevalence of mental health and substance uses. We need to fix this. And this site and the applicant has worked extremely hard to get staff recommendation for approval from both land use and zoning, which we've received. So one of the things some of the neighbors have brought up is crime, existing crime in the community.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Nobody told me there was crime.
Thank you. I'd like to turn it over to staff now.
Okay. Okay, so I will summarize what we have in the packet and just remind the board that what is before you is an actual rezoning, not a use approval. But I will discuss the use since the applicant brought it up under their comments. So what we have is the Haverhill Recovery Center. The site is located at the southwest corner of Haverhill Road and Horseshoe. The current future land use, the existing one that exists today, is MR5, and the zoning is planned unit development. The acreage is just under 4 acres. It's 3.97 acres. They have 2 requests. One, to abandon the prior Class A conditional use for the congregate living facility and to do an official zoning map amendment to change the zoning to plan unit development, from plan unit development to IPF, which is institutional and public facilities. So the site currently is approved as a plan unit development. It is currently approved as a congregate living facility with 47 beds. A congregate living facility is a residential use. Okay, so I'll move on. This is the zoning in the area. You can see it's surrounded by residential zoning. We have RS across the street. The current Horseshoe Acres is AR. It's all in green. South of it is the Century Village area, which is RH. Then further down, we have plan unit development for Reflection Bay. So it is surrounded by a residential zoning. And it is currently zoned plan unit development, which is a residential zoning classification. The proposed preliminary site plan has 4 distinct buildings, which totals 31,000 square feet. They have access from the south proposed off of Haverhill Road and a newly dedicated right-of-way. There is a proposed emergency access at the north, kind of the northwest corner for emergency access only. They have 45 proposed parking spaces and 4 loading spaces, and as I already mentioned, the access. So we've received several emails recently and comments, but I am going to go back a little bit on the request and clarification. So this particular application before you is also contingent on the separate application for a future land use change. So the applicant is proposing to modify the future land use from MR5, which is a residential classification, to an institutional future land use. With that, they would need to rezone to a consistent zoning classification. Those consistent zoning classification include public ownership or IPF. When you rezone to that type of classification, any of the uses in the IPF zoning district would be allowed. So when staff analyzes a rezoning, we're looking at all the potential uses that could possibly go on this piece of property, which include government services, which includes a hospital. So there are other uses that could potentially be on this property besides what they are proposing, which is skilled nursing and residential treatment facility. So we look at it as a whole, and we have conditions of approval on this particular application to identify any potential uses for any use that could possibly be on this site for the future. So that's why we have a conditional overlay zone. This was presented to the Planning Commission on November 8th. Although staff did recommend approval, it should be noted that the Planning Commission unanimously voted denial 9-0, which is inconsistent with what the applicant stated to you earlier, saying that the Planning Commission recommended approval. They recommended denial.
Please stop. Please, audience, please. Be quiet, you'll have a moment.
They recommended denial. In the staff report on page 8, I do have a list of all the uses that are and could potentially be on this property, along with their approval processes. So a residential treatment facility is an administrative type approval. There are other uses that could be permitted by right, along with those uses that could be allowed through the conditional use approval process in IPF. So we'll go to the use that they're presenting. So the use that is currently existing or approved is a congregate living facility, as I had mentioned, with 47 beds. And the approved square footage is 23,589 as a one-story building with 33 parking spaces. It is a residential use. They are proposing a non-residential use. Okay, so this is not a residential use. It is a non-residential use, and that's why they're proposing skilled nursing and residential treatment. We did do modifications to the code in 2021 with the assistance of Daniel Lauber to address what we previously had as a Type 1 CLF, Type 2 CLF, and the Type 3 CLF, which this is approved as. We introduced new uses for community residential uses and transitional community residences and recovery communities. We also clarified the prior existing use as a nursing home and congregate living nursing home use, which became skilled nursing and treatment. It's still a non-residential use. It was a non-residential use before. They had mentioned that they were going to continue with the ALF. It isn't an ALF. They're proposing skilled nursing and residential treatment facility. And there is a difference. They had 47 beds previously based on the land use. The residential converter is 2.39 beds per acre. Right, 2.39 beds per acre, which got them the 47 beds. They are changing to skilled nursing, which will now would allow them to have 100 beds on this facility because, again, it is a non-residential use. Through the code amendments that we did to introduce community residential with the assistance of our Daniel Lauber, those were considered residential uses as well because it was creating a place where people can live as a home and go recover through their treatment, but no treatment on site. Okay, so the treatment of those houses is just like a home. It's just people living as a family in those homes for family community residences and transitional community residences. This particular request requires or is in the need of treatment that is going to be taking place, and thus the change of use to a residential and skilled nursing facility. Now, residential skilled nursing is allowed in other areas, including as Class A conditional uses in the RM zoning district, the RS zoning district, our commercial districts in the URA, as well as in planned development districts. The problem with the current zoning classification in planned unit development, if you change to skilled nursing, again, it's a non-residential use. Planned unit developments require 60% of the use to be residential. This would be 100% non-residential. So that's why they would have to change the zoning classification for that particular use. So they're proposing to change from planned unit development to IPF because they're requesting a legislative action to change the future land use to institutional. So in closing, I think, unless Lisa has more to add, I just want to say that this is a rezoning, not necessarily the use approval, but we're looking at all the types of uses. That's why we have conditions of approval included in there as it relates to the heights of the structures, the locations of the structures, the amount of parking that's provided, the placement of those buildings due to its impact on a residential neighborhood, given that it is a non-residential use that's proposed.
Thank you. Any comments from the commission right now before we move on? Questions? No. Do we, sorry, just to get the order, are we going to go ahead and have the applicant rebuttal or wait until we get the comments? What did we? Comments first. Okay. So with that, I also needed clarification. We have a variety of comment cards here, and I thank you for coming to speak. It is your right. I have 15 cards that say they wish to speak. I have 15 cards that say wish not to speak. Out of those 15 not to speak, 8 have comments that they want in the record. If we just file these, does that include it? We do not need to read these. Is that correct?
Right. They become part of the record. It's up to the chair's discretion how you'd like to handle that.
Yeah. I would just file them if that. I don't need to make a motion, right? I can just make that discretion. And then I have, as I said, 15 comment cards. In an effort, you are all entitled to speak. We'll call you up, give your name and your address before you speak. You're going to have 2 minutes. But what I was going to suggest is I'm sure that a lot of you have an agreement on what you want to say, so I don't know if there would be one person you'd like to speak on your behalf or if you each want to come up individually and speak. The choice is something that we can go through, or if you want to give your time up to somebody else. we can do that. And then I have one card that did not say whether they wanted to speak or not, so we will ask this female person if she did want to speak, or we just want to put this into record. So just give me 1 minute. So to raise the co-chair, you call them off, and then put them call two at a time. Have them go to each podium.
Call two and have, okay.
Yep, so you go through that.
Okay. All right, we'll begin calling from the cards. The first card is Scriber? Manny Scriber? Maybe mispronouncing the first name, but...
Mebry? It looks like Mebrie. Sorry.
Okay, Melanie. Scriber. And then we'll also call, to be in line, Brian Macho.
Yeah, I have a card to speak. We're husband and wife. We live in the same house. We live across the street.
Come together if that's okay.
Oh, are you Brian as well, or no?
No, I'm Assam.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian is right there.
Okay.
Brian is right next to the property.
And then we'll have Brian just come stand at this other podium so that we can continue through this, but I will look for your other card.
Okay.
Yeah, so we live right across the street. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Yep. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Assam Mahmood, and this is Melanie Schreiber. We're husband and wife. We both own the property across the street from where they're trying to build this place.
Hold on 1 second.
Put your phone away.
Oh.
The phone causes
Oh.
feedback.
Okay, sorry about that. We stand before you today as a concerned resident and a parent, a homeowner who's deeply invested in the safety and well-being of our family and our community. We're here to strongly oppose the proposed placement of this rehab center in front of our home. I want to be clear, I'm not against rehab centers or the people who seek help through them. We believe in second chances, and we understand the importance of support services, but this is not about denying help to those in need. This is about a serious failure in decision-making that puts our family and neighbors at risk. For years, the current owners of this property have been already mismanaging it. It's allowed to become a haven for crime and instability. The facility already houses a bunch of homeless people for the last couple of years when they changed it to PUD. I've been personally experienced the consequences. We put $6,000 of cameras. We've been targeted. Our cars have been robbed. We've called the police many times as soon as they change it to PUD and non-residential. And our children, they should feel safe in the front yard of their home. And now the same owners, they changed it over to these people. We still have the same issue. They're trying to tell us that this project's already approved, that we have no say in the matter. And they intimidated us as saying the decision is already final. And I'm here to tell you it's not final. You, the commissioners, have the power to do the right thing, and you have the power to listen to the voice of the families who actually live here and not just those looking to profit at our expense. This is not a...
I'm sorry, time's up. The buzzer went off. And again, I know you guys are very passionate, but just out of respect, please keep your applause down. You'll have your moment to speak.
I'd also like to call the next, what?
He actually spoke, but she was the one that called. Did you, so, yes, if you both did a card, but you actually went out of order, so just, we're going to go over to this gentleman, and then we'll go back to you.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me? My name's Brian Mako. I live at 5128 Horseshoe Circle. It's the property directly to the west of the proposed property. I own 383 feet on the west line of that, and I'm very much opposed to the rehab center. So I guess you're going to give me a lousy 3 minutes to discuss this. I've lived there for 35 years and raised 2 kids, sent them both to Dreyfus, and they're all out in Palm Beach County making a living and doing some good for everybody. So I would think common sense would prevail on this, but here we go again. You give them 43 beds, and now they're back wanting 100 beds, okay? You know, to take it, throw it down our throats, and now add even more, okay? Well, what's it driven by? The last time I was in here when we won some vote, okay, Mr. Silverman said, I can't make any money on 47 beds, okay? I got to go back in and get more. He said it, okay? So he's back here again, okay? So what we want to do is have 3.9 acres, Ever been on 3.9 acres? Well, I'm on 2 acres, okay? You want to put 100 beds in here and staff with 45 parking spots, excuse me if I get some of this stuff wrong, have food service, janitors, dumpsters, and everything going on in this little matchbox of things, okay? What do these people do, okay? What do they do they go to some rehab thing and it's convenient. What do they do at night? What do these people do at night? Watch TV? Strum a banjo and play Kumbaya? Okay, no, they're going to be out in our neighborhood and they're going to be all around this town trying to find something to do, okay? And it ain't going to be good. Break it into cars.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Go like this, I can see over the wall, okay? It needs to be 12 foot, and it needs to be on the north side, the south side, and the west side.
Thank you. And before we go on, we'll need your name and address for the record, because you said you lived across the street, but I know we called you.
Showed a picture of our home. They came.
No, that's okay. I'm just saying for the record, I know we went out of order. Your wife was called up and you spoke, so we need, did you get his name?
My wife would like to say something too.
Brian and Melissa?
If she filled out a card, she can. We'll call her when her time is right.
Mine's Sam and Melanie. Sam and Melanie.
Oh, okay, I saw his, yeah. Sorry, just give us 1 second, because we don't want to have to
We've been
recall.
dealing with this directly. You can look up the sheriff's logs as well.
Did they each do a card? This
That's hers,
Melissa
so-
Sharper.
All right, and I saw his, so we'll just have to find it.
Okay, so we have Melissa
Yeah,
next.
yep. And then we'll let, yep, she's going to speak now. And then we need to call Melanie, yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Melanie Schreiber. I live at 5065 Horseshoe Circle South. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I live at 5065 Horseshoe Circle South. I'm a mother of 2 kids. I'm also a pharmacist, so I know firsthand, especially even with my own family, the importance of these kinds of facilities. They do have it under as a guise of behavioral health, but we know that they can use it for other purposes, such as their Singer Health facility that they mentioned is also used as a treatment center for drug rehabilitation. They've also previously put under guise of a traumatic brain injury, which now we understand is not traumatic brain injury facility. So my major concern is this facility's safety. What does happen, like Brian was saying, to these people at nighttime? So this can create potential hazards because the emergency exit is on our road that we do share the property line with. So this has caused late night disturbances. It could cause increased visitor traffic that in our neighborhood that we've never experienced previously. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous.
No, I understand.
My kids play outside, and that is my biggest concern, is where are they going to play when this facility takes place? We've had them that they've had people come in the past and come up and talk to my kids. Are strangers. I don't want that. You can see how young they are.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next would be Assam Mahmood.
That is you, that's him. That's
Oh,
him.
okay, okay.
Yep, got it.
Sorry, so the next we call Bonnie Roberts. And let's also have Michael Bonner, it looks like.
Where is
Those two.
Good morning. My name is Bonnie Roberts. This is my mom, Ellen Hoyt. She lives at 5033 South Horseshoe Circles, so I'm speaking for her. We are requesting that you deny this proposed change in the zoning for this property. My mom has lived here in this community for 40 years and deeply values the sense.
Hang on one second.
We might need for that mic not to be used because the feedback is kind of excruciating.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody could just use the other mic and we'll see if it's better. Either that or it's the cell phones that people are holding close to the mic.
We don't even have a cell phone here, so
Okay.
that's not the
All
case.
right. Then, I'm sorry, can you go over to this then podium and then we'll just have everybody,
Stop the clock.
we'll give her an extra few seconds for that.
All right. Thank you. So again, my name is Bonnie Roberts, and this is my mom, Ellen Hoyt. She lives at 5033 South Horseshoe Circle. I grew up there. She has lived in this community for 40 years and deeply values the sense of peace and connection that it provides. We believe that any change to this zoning would negatively impact the character and beauty of our neighborhood, which has been a cherished part of our community for many years. The proposed recovery center is planned to be located directly across from her home with the emergency entrance and exit facility facing her property. We have serious concerns that this development will lead to increased traffic congestion in our neighborhood. The facility will likely draw more vehicles through our area, including on the south side as well as the north side of the road, especially when drivers miss the main entrance off of Haverhill Road and use our street as a shortcut. Many drivers currently pass our street without even realizing it is there, and this will only become more problematic with the addition of a large facility. Our neighborhood is a small, tight-knit community where several families, including our own, have lived here for decades. Many of us have raised our children here, and we are now fortunate enough to watch our grandchildren grow up in the same environment. For example, her grandson enjoys playing in his stroller and riding his bike along the neighborhood roads, which are currently quiet and safe. The prospect of increased traffic, especially with the facility's emergency access points, raises concerns about the safety of our children and grandchildren. In addition, any zoning change to this location other than residential is simply not compatible with our single-family residential neighborhood. The peaceful, serene environment we have worked to maintain is integral to our community's character and quality of life. The presence of a large institutional facility, particularly one that may operate 24/7 and bring in a high volume of visitors, would disrupt the tranquility of our area. This type of development is better suited to a location designed to accommodate the unique demands and impacts of such facilities, not a small neighborhood like ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael.
No clapping, please, please, please. I've asked a few times. Please, out of respect for everyone.
Hello. My name is Michael Brenner, and I live in Century Village, and I have been coming to Century Village for 45 years.
Could you please state your address?
I live at 88 Sussex E in Century Village. I live on the Turnpike, so it's not near the facility. However, in recent years, this facility, as well as many other facilities that are proposed and have been approved, are continuing to box us in. We are surrounded now by Section 8 housing, a proposed hotel going to residences. We have empty lots that are homeless encampments, and all I'm trying to do is save the sanctity of our community and make it a safe place to live. It has become less and less safe over the years, and I think that this however many bed facility that's being proposed will not improve the conditions in the neighborhood. The other people have mentioned traffic. Traffic is impossible. And the last thing we need is a drug rehab facility at our back door. And I appreciate all the time that you people put into it, and I hope you continue to reject this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up.
No, please stop. I've asked a lot of times. Please stop clapping.
Next, we have Joanne Robinson. Yeah. You want me to call somebody else as well? Yeah, just one.
Good morning. Hope you can hear me all right. My name is Joanne Robinson, and I live at 267 Norwich L. When I open my door, I look at the existing building on this property today. It's about 25 yards or 30 yards away. It has fallen into terrible disrepair. There's no one there. It is an eyesore at the moment. It's wonderful. We were promised that an assisted living facility with 47 beds was going to be put on this property the last time we were here. And it hasn't happened. That was in 2018. We in Century Village have 700 acres of senior citizens who dearly want our loved ones, our husbands, our wives, our dear friends to have an assisted living facility close. We have our own buses. We could stop with our bus and visit them. We're very upset that this land use is being changed to an institutional land use. We have no idea what the future will bring. Yes, right now you're looking at a drug rehab. We just don't want this property changed from residential to institutional use. We want the assisted living facility that we were told we were going to get. And so we really would implore you to reject this bid to change the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll call Diana Casales Nero, maybe?
Hi, how are you guys? Before my time starts, can I please get a big enhanced way of our Horseshoe Road, please? I just wanted you guys to be able to relate to what I'm going to say. Please, if it's possible.
I think they're working on it. Give us a minute. Can we get a picture up there? Are they working on it? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa. All right, so my name is Diana Casales Nero. I live in that neighborhood right there that you see that is a green patch of land. And they are lying to you. They have been lying to you since 2018. And you know what you did? You approved a PUD because of their lie. They told Baxter right here in front of us that they were going to build there a brain rehab center. You know what Baxter did? I have my aunt that needs this kind of facility. You know what they did here, all of you guys? They approved the PUD change. When you guys changed M5 or MR5, you were starting to begin the process of changing that little green lot right there. I would like to know what I have to do to get the county, the commissioners, the mayor, the government to try to protect that little piece of land that we have there. We are families that live there. Our kids live there. Do you see that little thing that looks like a heart all the way at the end of that neighborhood? Those are my raised beds. He built them for me so I could retire there. I'm a teacher. That's my sanity. When I come home, I don't want to live in a jail. You know what I need to do in 2018? When they proposed their wonderful building, you know what I had to do? I had to spend $8,000 that I didn't have. I'm a teacher. He doesn't make that much money either. And unfortunately, I had to raise a very ugly metal fence around my property. It looks like a jail. But you know what they did to the planning commissioners? They actually said to them, well, we cannot keep them in here because this is not a jail. When the planning commissioners asked them, how do you plan on keeping these people protected? Are you planning on putting security so they don't walk around their neighborhood? But above all of these little meaningful things to us and unmeaningful things to you guys that are the legislators of our changes in my life, the truth is, you see that road? That's an ingress, egress, private road.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay, next we'll call, it looks like Joel Casales. Okay.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Joel Casales, husband of Diana Casales. I try, from the beginning, try to understand what's going on right here. That's what my wife said about the lion. He is starting for 42 bed right now. He changed for 100 bed. It's affect us a lot. Affect from the everything about the the passion, which he got a family. Mr. Bryan, the last time when he coming right here, he tried explain for you everything. It's like a heart attack because he can't explain. Like me right now, I can't speak back.
Dame tus minutos.
He said he tried help people. Nobody, Mr. Bryan cut the grass. Mr. Bryan take care of that property because he can do it from the last time. From the last meeting right here, Mr. Bryan talked right here about the land, try keep clean, he not do nothing. I want to give you 1 minute for my time for my wife because she needs to say something about it.
Yeah, we
Thank
thought
you.
we were going to have 3 minutes. I'm really sorry, guys. So that road that I was talking about.
Hold on, I'm sorry,
Yes.
1 second. Just,
Can he donate his minutes to me, please, so I can finish my statement?
I was just checking. Will you?
sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
please.
sorry.
I want to
I'm very
respect you too.
passionate about
Okay.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have no idea.
That's fine.
Okay, so the road that I was referring to is an ingress-egress easement line. Our properties connect, and it was built by the neighbors. And that is an ingress, one-way, tiny little road. We cannot have, like the fire department is forcing them to use our road, we cannot have the fire department coming in whenever somebody ODs or whenever somebody doesn't react well to their medications. By the way, they are not using this for any other purposes than drug rehab. They have told us this to our faces. It's for drug rehab. We're going to have drug addicts in my neighborhood?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up is Patricia Caputo. She was there.
But she didn't speak, right? Yeah.
She did a little bit. Yes, after him for about 30 seconds, and she got nervous.
Right here, right? Okay. Sorry, I'm visually impaired. Good morning. I'd like to talk about another side to this. I am a very compassionate person.
Could you please state your address for the record,
I'm sorry.
please?
My name is Patricia Caputo. I live at 404 Greenbrier A, Century Village. Okay, I was a volunteer for Daytop. That's a very big drug facility center. A lot of people heard about it. It's in Manhattan is the biggest organization. So after work, because I have this compassion, I volunteered to see what it was about, to help people, and there was a member in my family that had a drug problem. I'm here to tell you that this was a great facility. They never put it near a residence, ever, because they wanted the people to have the freedom to walk around when they had nothing to do, so it was always in a facility that had a lot of land away from private homes. I know from experience, because I did this for many, many years, that these drug rehabs do not work. You have 1 out of maybe 4 dozen people that want the help. They are allowed to walk off these premises if they decide they don't want the drug rehab. They're not going to tell you that. No one is forced to stay there unless it's through the jails, from the court. Otherwise, they're free to go. And let me tell you something. They need money, they're desperate for drugs, and they'll go anywhere. We're old people. I'm 81 years old. I didn't retire to move to a neighborhood that I have to worry about homeless people and drug addicts. While I have the compassion and it's a good idea, put it somewhere where there's a lot of land away from us. We're elderly people. How are we going to fight people back? We had some problems. They're right. People have climbed the fences and come over. We're not for this program in our neighborhood. Please consider the age of us and why we retired and why we came here. West Palm Beach is not a dumping grounds. Thank you for listening.
Has Melissa Macho had a chance to speak? No. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Mako. I live at 5128 Horseshoe Circle South.
I had the pleasure of leaving our home this morning, which is, our street is lined with beautiful ficus trees. It's really a glorious place of 2-acre lots. When people come down that street, they can't believe it. They say, we've never seen anything like this. And as I left our street, I thought, why on earth are they considering this facility here and wanting to disrupt such a beautiful thing that West Palm Beach has in the middle, a beautiful respite in the middle of the city? But anyway, I was going over the future land use staff report, and I saw some things of concern to me. The first thing was in the applicant's justification statement for changing the zoning was 3443 North Haverhill. My husband and I went down to that property. It is a church. It sits there alone by itself with no roads on either side. I thought, how is this a consistent justification for changing a zoning? It doesn't even look compatible with what our property is. Okay? And then I've looked further through this staff report. I have to skip over a lot of what I wanted to say today, but the Flu Policy 2.2.1b states areas designated for residential use shall be protected from encroachment of incompatible future land uses. And it goes on to talk about protecting residential areas from adverse impacts of adjacent land uses. Non-residential future land uses shall be permitted only when compatible with residential areas. Well, I can't see how a 6-foot wall makes this a compatible item in our neighborhood. And it just seems, ridiculous to me. I went to look up today to see.
Thank you. That's time for you.
Thank you for your time today. I hope you'll consider not doing. Also, piecemeal development, we don't want that either, where people start selling off pieces of land to things like this just to get that. Thank you.
Fausto Fabro is next.
Good morning. Fausto Fabro. I live at 405 Greenbrier A, and I'm current president of UCO. I represent 7,854 unit owners inside Century Village, a residential place, not a commercial place. If you look around right now, a few people have stated, we are being surrounded. They want to take the La Quinta Hotel and turn it into basically not a drug rehab, a place to handle people that are homeless or have limited income, have veterans that need help. Directly behind us, the UCO office, there's 6 acres of property which the county is putting up to develop a 100-room place to place the same type of people, limited income, seniors that have issues. They're saying it's going to be 62 people, 60 years old or older. I don't know if that's going to happen. I heard the people say that it fits into the community. I don't understand how that fits into the community. You have 7,854 residents inside Century Village. You have the Horseshoe, which is all private residents. You have the tennis club, which is directly across the street. You have a temple. You have several, all residential areas. So how to put this drug rehab center in the middle of a residential area, I don't think is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Joseph Cavallo.
Good morning. My name is Joe Cavallo. I live at 251 Andover J. And pretty much it's all been said. What I want to say has already been covered. But obviously, nobody's happy about it. Nobody's comfortable with it. And we think it's a really bad idea. And we would hope and pray that you would not approve that rezoning. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, we're going to continue to move on. Thank you.
Next up is Jean Bierman.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Jean Berman. I live at 262 Northampton N in Century Village. I'm not going to repeat what some of my neighbors have said, so instead I will say this. Recovery facilities have a transient population who are there for a few weeks and then they leave. Now, I'm someone who has volunteered at addiction conferences. I belong to a 12-step program, not for narcotics, but for other things. And I have material here from Narcotics Anonymous. And they feel that it's an outside issue, but it says that many people have heard about Narcotics Anonymous because they've been in a hospital or an institution. Transition from such places to the outside world is not easy under any circumstances. This is especially true when we're challenged with the changes which recovery brings. And facing the prospect of life without drugs can be very frightening. But people who have made it have made it. But meantime, a lot of them relapse. And this is one of the ways that these places make money. Because let's face it, this institutional use is a business. It is not a residential facility. All they want to do is bring in 100 people at a time, give them some classes, maybe a couple of therapy sessions or whatever, and then send them back out onto the street again when their insurance money is up, which is typically, 21 or 30 days. And this doesn't help anybody. Addiction is a brain disease, and people can get addicted to many different things, and having treatment is a good thing, but do it somewhere else. If the property owner can't make a go of it as an assisted living, then sell it to somebody who can. The residential communities were here first.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
And next we'll call Michael Williams.
Good morning. My name is Michael Williams, and I live at 5215 Horseshoe Circle North, and I've lived there over 40 years, almost 50 years. I'm one of the original residents in that community, and it's a travesty to see what's going on or what they're trying to do in my community right now. We're a very diverse community. We're a family-oriented community. I was walking down my streets a couple of days ago, and I see my neighbor's kids in the front yard selling their lemonade. And when I think about what they're trying to bring here into our community, it's really disgusting, and it really affects me real badly. And I hope today that you guys, I don't think any one of you guys on this panel right now would want to see this in your community. We live there, we're very diverse inside there. We take care of one another. It's a private road. People who have lived in this community for 50 years don't even know that community exists there. We're trying to maintain that. And all we're asking for is you guys to consider that little gem that everybody sees 5 minutes from downtown West Palm Beach, but the same thing they have in Wellington. It doesn't exist anywhere anymore. This, what they're planning to do here, is only planning to destroy our community. And I need your help. Every one of you. I'm looking at all of you today, and I'm asking every one of you to consider if this is what you'd want to be in your backyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Esther Sutofkis. Sutofkis.
It's a slow-moving vehicle. It's been a bit of time to get. I just had it.
While we're waiting, can I ask Nancy Salmi, you had filled out a comment card, but you didn't say whether you wanted to speak or not. So if you did want to speak, I just need to know.
No.
No? Okay. We'll just add your comments to the record then.
Okay, slow but steady wins the race, I hope. My name is Esther Sutofsky. I live at 310 Wellington E. I have been a resident there and owner since 1998 and a full-time resident since June 30th, 2003, when I retired from teaching. so I know people who have problems. I speak a little bit more bluntly than some people. My Hui detector is overloaded from what I heard from the right side of the building. Unspoken, unleft said was the fact that many of the clinics of the drug rehabs in Florida have been known to be simply dispersal places, and there are huge parties at night. We have 15,000 people, 15,000 elderly people who worked hard for their money, who worked hard to gain a place where they can live. Now, for the sake of the 28,000 that he says, the 14 million that he says, we cannot do that. We are a small community, a community of like-minded people, and incidentally, a bunch of old people who have difficulty at this point already trying to cross Haverhill when it used as the Haverhill Raceway. And now we're going to have more cars in addition to everything else. We are a besieged community, totally besieged. And this committee, all of you county commissioners, it is up to you. It is on your shoulders to keep our community safe, intact, along with the people from Horseshoe Circle. And I must say, I saw a house in there I was dying for. Couldn't afford it. So, it is up to you. It's not up to us, the speakers. It's not up to us to stand there confused and not knowing what to say. Each and every one of you, if you want that community to continue to exist, if you think...
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay. Thank you. Please think carefully.
We'll call Harrison Ketzen next.
Thank you. I'm the proposed tenant that wasn't able to speak. My name's Harrison Katzen. I live at 20135 Casa de Campo Lane in Palm Beach County. I just wanted to provide a couple of statistics specific to my company and behavioral health in general. Zinni Health has some of the largest or best outcomes in the country. We actually have top 10% in behavioral health outcomes. That's a fact. It's done by an independent research company. I'm happy to provide that. If you look at our property in Singer Island, where we currently operate, the property values have actually gone up adjacent to our property where we operate. You can see that. You can look it up. They've gone up in value, so that's not my opinion. It's an actual fact.
Be quiet.
If you look at some independent research studies, adding a facility actually decreases homelessness and crime in locations. That's counter to actually an emotional element. It's an actual research done by the Brookings Institute. You can look it up. It's done by a professor from the University of Texas A&M. The authors estimate that each additional treatment facility in a county reduces the social costs of crime in that county by $4.2 million a year. If I looked at my facility in Miami or in Singer Island, which is actually in Palm Beach County, we have 2 to 3 Baker Acts there a year, and the EMT ambulance comes 3 to 4 times a month. It's done by an AMR, which is a private group that comes on site, just so you guys know. And I think the last thing just to be mindful of is Zinni Health is not a fly-in model. We treat local constituents. We actually have a partnership with Sanitas, which is backed by Florida Blue. They have 36 primary care providers in the state of Florida. We treat the local residents of the state. They're not from outside the state. We're treating inside the state, so just be mindful of that. People say that they come around. We're actually here to treat the constituents of our community. So I appreciate your consideration. We will make a positive impact in the community. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Put it in your backyard. We don't want that.
Next up is Victoria Liggett.
Hi, my name is Victoria Leggett. I live at 821 North Riverside Drive in Pompano Beach, Florida. I am the owner of that piece of property that has such contention about it. And a lot of the comments back here from some of the people have been extremely rude. I have tried to keep the property up to the best that I could. When the brain injury facility was granted permission to go there. We operated it. We had 7 people in a home in there. A lot of these same comments were given. They're going to walk around the neighborhood. There's going to be break-ins in our home. These people are crazy. None of that happened. I never, when it ran, we had the 8 people in there. We had no complaints. We were ready to build the big facility. COVID hit. Need I say more? It took the people that were there who were going to run it, couldn't go forward with it. How are we going to build a facility? You couldn't even get people out to build. You couldn't move people and even get new people into the smaller building because they were not moving people during COVID. So then I had a couple other offers on the property. I think they came before P&Z and things were going smoothly. For whatever reason, they pulled out. One was a hospital. I had a church contact me that put an offer in and then decided at the last minute to pull it out. I have done my best to keep that property up. I live 1 hour away. I go up at least every other week. I finally got a gentleman on property to house his big lawnmower there, and he's been watching the property. And on one last quick note, I lost a daughter from drugs, fentanyl and cocaine. So when Harrison and this group came to me and proposed what they wanted to do, you can imagine
Thank you. Your time
how
is
I
up.
felt. So as a mother, she would not be the one roaming around
Thank
your
you.
neighborhood.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the comments. Would we like to call the applicant up to speak?
Hi, Jeffrey Lynn again for the applicant. Thank you again for this opportunity. You can imagine I've been doing this for 28 years, and I've been focused on providing services for drug and alcohol treatment providers for the last 15. So the comments that I hear from the crowd are not unusual. They're based upon lack of knowledge. They're based on lack of experience. I'll wait. Thank you. So let's remind us why we're here. We're here to determine whether there is competent substantial evidence in the record to support this quasi-judicial hearing. There are standards to be met. Okay, those standards have been met. Staff has said those standards have been met. I have not heard, you have not heard any competent substantial evidence introduced by anyone outside of lay opinion why they don't want this here. All we've heard today is that there's a safety concern. There is no safety concern. There's no evidence of a safety concern. It's just prejudice and stigma and fear. Okay, I'm going to ask for a point of order.
Yeah, you know what?
This entire
we did not rebuttal when you guys were speaking. Please be respectful. I know we have strong opinions here, but this gentleman is allowed to speak without comments from the crowd.
So I understand that there's safety concerns. There's no evidence of any safety concerns outside of common fears about addicts. And that fear about addicts is what's kept our country from serving this population for decades and decades. I'm not going to talk to them, but I can. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm being
please.
heckled by really people that are my grandparents' age. I mean, that's not mature.
Scott, is there anything we can just continue to ask them to be quiet? I mean, is there any?
The people in the crowd should respect the orderly conduct of the meeting. If it becomes disorderly, or if it's interrupting things in a way that can't be moved forward, it may be at the discretion of the chair to have them removed with security if it gets to that point.
Yeah. I think we can all just be professional here. I mean, we've allowed everybody to speak, and it's, whatever your opinion is, they didn't heckle you. Please let this gentleman speak, and we will take everything we've learned under advisement and make decisions once we're ready to.
Thank you. So I'm not going to start over.
No,
because their attempt to interrupt me to start that. But what I will say is that this is a quasi-judicial hearing. There are standards. There's laws that need to be applied. This isn't a plebiscite. This isn't a popularity contest. The problem with popularity contests is that's what's stymied good, valuable recovery in drug and alcohol treatment in our country for decades and decades and decades. Not based on science, not based on fact, but based upon prejudice and fear. And how did that work out for us? I can tell you for the first time in years, this year will be the first time that overdose rates and OD rates in our county have gone down. And that's gone down because of the efforts of the task force, the efforts of DCF, and the efforts of people like my clients to put in good quality drug and alcohol treatment, behavioral health care in our county for our residents. So I do understand. My client fully understands the fears that you're hearing, but those are just fears of the unknown. None of those, I hate to say, are true. They've never proven to be true. They're not true anywhere. They're just fears that we continue to propagate so that these kinds of uses, as they say, I don't have a problem with drug and alcohol treatment, just not in my backyard. I get that. We get that. But this is the appropriate site. It's appropriate use. It is not a residential use to the extent that people are not living there all year round. But it is a residential use because people are living there. It is their home until they leave. Okay, and so therefore, this is a residential use, and it is also the reason why Ms. Hernandez even stated that the other zoning categories that allow this use are also residential. RS is single family, RM is multifamily. This use is allowable and permissible in those residential zoning districts. So there has been a determination that this use is already compatible with various zoning districts. The only reason that we're asking for the rezoning is because of the underlying PUD that was rezoned. Otherwise, again, if this was 2018, whether it was a brain center or not, you already heard from understanding from facts, not conjecture, that this use has already been vetted. The concerns have already been vetted, and none of those fears ever came to fruition. So now what the audience asks is, let's make a bunch of speculation and mixed assumptions that addicts are bad people. Let's make assumptions that they're criminals. Let's make assumptions that they're dangerous to our children. Let's make assumptions they're going to reduce our property values. Because if I just say those things to you and don't prove them to you and get you all worked up, you're going to agree and you're going to deny this. Okay? Because I'm the applicant, and that's why. Please stop.
Doesn't have a 2-minute time frame.
My goodness, this is just, I've never experienced this before. I hope that really this is...
Please, can we just be professional, all of us?
Now I'm being threatened to get used to it.
No.
This is what's happening here, is I'm being threatened now, my clients. This is not...
We want to focus on the matter at hand.
I do want to focus on the matter.
And so I'd like to ask everyone, if I have to do it again, we're going to start having people escorted out. We're trying to be professional. We're taking into consideration everyone's comments fairly and trying to establish a reasonable response to this applicant and considering what you've said as well. So please, let's just act like we're adults and let this gentleman speak.
So if we can continue with this process that we're not being scared away. That if the Century Village people, and this is the first time we're hearing from them today, we knew of none of these comments or concerns. If they want to meet with us and sit down and express their concerns so we can go over and assuage those concerns, we'd be very happy to do so as many times as they want at their convenience. My guess is they don't want to do that, but we're open to that. We're willing, but this is the first time we've ever even heard that they had a concern. So I don't want you to think we've been ignoring them, because we've not. We've been doing outreach for quite some time. The only other comment that came up was about traffic. There's no traffic problem. There are a lot of cars coming here. My client put up very briefly a slide which demonstrated the difference between the approved ALF, CLF type of use and what's being proposed there. There's less traffic, there's less employees, there's less coming and going, there's less deliveries. It's a very sedate, calm, quiet place. People are not running around at night. There is not a bunch of addicts that have nothing to do, they're going to go into their neighborhoods. This is not what that is. This is a sanctuary. As the nice resident said, this is a respite for them too. That's why this location was chosen. That's why the ADA and the Fair Housing Act said we have to stop putting people in recovery into institutionalized environments, because that is not good for them. And all we're doing is furthering discrimination. We're furthering misinformation. We're furthering prejudice by not putting people who are voluntarily going to treatment into communities so people can see that they're just exactly like you and me and just look like everyone else in this room. They have an image in their head that these are other people, those people, and that is not what is happening here. And that is not what happens in drug and alcohol treatment. So I really hope to use this opportunity in meetings with them, if they'll be amenable, and open their fist to a hand and listen, that there's a lot of good things that Zinnia Health does in this state for our residents, and this is the perfect location for that, and will make them proud, actually, that all of the current, well, I've heard there's homeless people, and there's drug addicts, and there's problems in this neighborhood, there's a La Quinta that may be turned over to create affordable housing. I hear fear about those people, as opposed to trying to work together to eliminate whatever their problems are. And certainly a very valuable provider wants to come into this community, a valued provider wants to come to this community, and the last thing they want to do is create an environment that doesn't work for their residents, for their patients, for their clients. So if anything, there'll be new eyes in the street, there'll be new development, a beautiful piece of property on the corner, and the residents should be able to rest assured that they are safe. But the conjecture and fear that criminals are drug addicts and that rapists are drug addicts and that people different than us are drug addicts cannot be allowed to continue and absolutely cannot be allowed to come into your context of thinking, because that is not what's happening here. It's absolutely not. So I want to thank you so much for your time. We do remain available for any operational questions you have or any other kinds of questions. So
Thank you.
I have a question for the applicant. You can come back.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little puzzled by the fact that you're saying you didn't know that Century Village, though people wanted to meet with you, or you were willing to meet with them. What about the residents that are across the street, so on? Have you made any attempt to contact any of them?
Mike, you come on.
It just seems a little strange that everybody's saying they never heard anything. You're saying you never heard anything till today.
Hi, Michael Silverman, the applicant again. Yeah, we had a community meeting on site, I believe in August, and we met with a bunch of residents in the community. I know we...
It's not an open forum. We're asking a question. He's responding to us.
Yeah, and so we heard their concerns about the site, the past history of what had happened, and we tried to explain to them that that's not us. We are going forward trying to fix some of the issues that have been plaguing the community. Even on Monday, I went by the site and met with one of the residents, and they spoke about the ongoing homelessness encampments behind tennis club towers, Publix. They talk about drug use, people selling drugs at the bus stop in front of our facility. And what I tried to explain is that what we're going to do is secure the site, have security, and actually not be the issue. And hopefully the law enforcement, the greater community, can address some of those ongoing concerns that the residents have in the community that are happening now and have been happening. We're looking to the future, while many of the residents, understandably so, are fearful based off their past experiences. We're trying to change what's going on.
But are you saying that you're going to put security, full-time security on site in the facility?
I mean, it will be a secured site.
That's not my question.
Can I answer that for a second, please? Sir.
Go ahead, please.
This is not a lockdown facility. These are voluntary people who come. These are not people that are ordered by court, and if they leave, they're chained to a bed. It's a very nice facility. That I don't even want to use the facility. It's a respite. It's where people go to recover from drug and alcohol addiction because on their own they've had a difficult time. If they are at such a level that they can't do that, this is not the right facility for them. They would have to be in a higher level facility if they could not on their own be fully capable of functioning and not being a danger to themselves or others. Security is for purposes of the site, not to protect the residents from them, but to protect the clients from the people potentially on the outside who may want to come around to a new building. There's certainly...
Do we need to get security in here?
If he just kept talking, it'd be fine.
I mean, not to go off, we've been accused today of being liars. We've been slandered. We've been called a lot of things today. My client has. And I just want to just put on the record that we take exception to that because we have not done that. We've not interrupted them. There's been no name calling. We're here to propose a solution for this property and for this neighborhood. The objection is not to the use. The objection is to the people who will populate that use. And so therefore the understanding, the fear is, are we going to have full-time security? There will be people on the site to protect the people on the site because we have confidentiality requirements, federal confidentiality requirements, so that, sir, if you went there, that people couldn't come take pictures of you and post that on Facebook or otherwise when you're there privately, so that you are safe and that you are secure. We are not worried about needing to protect them from the residents of Century Village or the neighbors, obviously. But to the extent that I'm hearing that there's an existing drug addiction problem, that there's an existing homeless encampment problem, that seems to me like a law enforcement problem and not something my clients could exacerbate but actually fix. So as for security, there's no need for security. However, if you wanted to put a condition that they need to hire full-time security, while wasteful and really unnecessary, that would be taken into consideration.
Maybe you need to meet with the residents a little bit more than you have been.
Well, we were saying we were not aware that Century Village was going to, at the last second, bus the entire people
I'm
here.
talking about the immediate neighbors, people across the street, Horseshoe Acres.
My understanding is that there was an open house, there was a meeting, and people came. If you're asking for us to go door to door and ask people what they want to do, is that
Do you not hear them? These people didn't meet with you?
Well, they chose not to.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if I'm called a liar again, I'm going to ask it this time.
All right.
So, no, but I'm done. You answered my question. Thank
But
you.
I've been doing zoning for 28 years, and this is really a first for me, so thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners?
And we have staff rebuttal.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're still, if you have any questions, or we're here, do you want me to stay here, or?
We'll
figure
call
it
you
out.
back up.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I did want to ask, staff is going to say something now. I'd like you to address what he said, that the only reason why we're here is a change from PUD to, he says that's the only reason why.
Okay, so the applicant has requested a modification to the future land use to institutional. The consistent zoning districts for institutional are public ownership or institutional public facilities. So it's their request to modify the future land use, which is followed up with a rezoning to the consistent zoning classification. And again, the application before you is a rezoning, not the use approval. But in order to do the zoning, you have to know what the uses are allowed. And as I had mentioned in my presentation, staff analyzed all the potential uses and their effect on the surrounding residential areas. So when we analyze these plans, we're looking at those standards that are in the code. And I will reiterate that the standards in the code are addressing whether or not IPF is consistent with the plan, and our staff analysis says that it is consistent with institutional as proposed and determined by what will ultimately be determined by the Board of County Commissioners. The next standard is consistency with the code and whether or not the IPF district is consistent with the code. Then you have compatibility as another standard for review for a rezoning, whether or not the IPF zoning district is compatible with the surrounding uses and other zoning classifications. So again, another standard for whether or not the zoning district is compatible with the possible uses, hospital, arena, and all the other uses that I have stated that are on page 8 that could potentially be on this property are consistent with that surrounding neighborhood. The effects of the natural environment for that IPF zoning district, and then whether or not the development pattern for allowing the IPF zoning district is logical and timely, whether or not it meets adequate public facilities for the IPF zoning district. And then the last one is whether or not the applicant has demonstrated that there are changed circumstances to allow the IPF zoning district. So again, Jeffrey Lynn mentioned in his rebuttal that the skilled nursing residential treatment facility is a residential use, and I'm correcting him again. It is not a residential use. It is a non-residential use. It's institutional, and it's listed in our use matrix in Article 4 as an institutional use. So it is not a residential use. And then to clarify, the property owner, one of the female host spoke, mentioned about having 8 people on site operating. Again, it wasn't in compliance. That facility was never built, so I'm not entirely positive how they were operating the
current CLF approval without implementing the site plan, but that was not done in compliance with the code. So anyway, with that said, I'll turn it over to Lisa.
One last thing to add, I would encourage you, as Jeffrey Lynn said and Wendy said, to not think about the use at hand. That is not the question of the specific operator and what they're going to do on this. You're looking at the standards that Wendy read and whether or not they are met. And the one thing I want to call to your attention is when this was approved as a planned unit development with a congregate living facility, the maximum allowable beds were 47. And that's because, to clarify some math earlier, in order to find out how many beds you can have, or bed/residence, it's one and the same, for a residential use, like a congregate living facility, you take the acreage, you multiply that by the 5 units per acre with the future land use designation, and then you multiply that by 2.39, which at the time they came up with that multiplier, that was the average person per household rate in the county. So when you multiply 3.97 times 5 times 2.39, it yields a maximum of 47 beds. However, when you're doing a skilled nursing or residential treatment facility, because it's a non-residential use, the multiplier is different. You take the acreage, you times it by the square footage allowed, the square footage in an acre, and then the multiplier is 1 bed per 1,000 square feet of lot area, which yields a higher number. And what the applicant is seeking in this case is 100 beds. So there's a lot of discussion as residential, non-residential, back and forth. If this was a residential use using the residential multiplier, it would be the 47 beds that are currently approved on the site. If the applicant wanted to use that site plan, it would be a different multiplier, and it's a residential use. They want twice as many beds in this facility, and that's because the difference between residential, CLF, and non-residential. But again, Wendy relayed the standards. Those are the areas for you to focus on today with your decision making.
Thank you.
I have a question of staff. Hi. So I understand, but I just want to reiterate. You're making the compatibility of the surrounding uses and the consistency of the zoning change based on the assumption that the underlying land use will change.
Exactly, because we wouldn't be, and what will happen at the Board of County Commissioners later this month is the first decision by the board will be, is this an appropriate location to change from medium residential 5 units per acre and all the non-residential uses that are allowed under that future land use designation. For example, the places of worship along this corridor and daycare, there's a daycare down the street. Those are uses that are non-residential that are allowed under the umbrella of the MR5. So first off on that agenda, the board will decide, is this appropriate, or have they met whatever comp plan standards there need to be to change from MR5 to institutional flu. And if they approve that, then they will consider the zoning district.
So my question to you, on the basis of intensity and density of use and how that is compatible with the surrounding land uses, you guys made your recommendation of compatibility of a 100-bed institution.
That was in part done by the Planning Division with the Comprehensive Plan Amendment, and that 100 meets, we're recommending approval because we did our best with the site plan to mitigate the compatibility to the best that we could, considering the request that was part of the future land use amendment.
So at what stage does it become an analysis of how a 100-bed institution, regardless of the specific use, right, regardless of whether it's drug treatment or a hospital, whatever, but a 100-bed institution next to 2-acre homes, at what point in the analysis does staff consider how that institutional changes the character of the surrounding residential neighborhood?
I'll defer to the Planning Division because this has a future land use map change, and they did their analysis that I can't speak to. Were the zoning, unlike any other, and I'll say this like at every hearing, and other than every other local government that I'm aware of, most places have the planning and the zoning as one, and there is a single commission making the combined decision, and there's a single commission, recommendation, and there's a single staff report with all of those features. But in unincorporated county, we have the planning division and the zoning division. The planning division is responsible for drafting the staff report and their recommendation on compatibility of that land use change, and we have Travis down there. So if Travis would like to speak to that.
Before we switch to the planning issue, though, Lisa, as a zoning commission, where do we consider the compatibility of a 100-bed institution or the potential of a 100-bed institution in a zoning change? Where do we consider the compatibility with the character of the surrounding neighborhood?
The challenge with this particular application is that the use approval, had it been a Class A conditional use and they weren't doing a rezoning, we would have the site plan before you to critique and design and comment on the site plan and the mitigation techniques of moving the buildings or increasing the separation and distances and such. But this is an unusual situation because by changing from a residential zoning district to a institutional and public facilities, that residential skilled nursing treatment center becomes a DRO approval. So it is only a staff level approval. It's no longer a Class A approval, which is the peculiar thing about this entire application is the way that you could, I guess, conditions of approval for a reduction in the intensity or greater separation is typically in the purview of the zoning commission. Mm-hmm. But at that point, or recommending denial because you don't see a way that we can mitigate. Typically when you're looking at compatibility, the closer two things are alike, the more compatible they are. Mm-hmm. So single family to single family pretty much is almost always compatible. The greater degree of compatibility concerns is when you're increasing the level of difference between uses. Mm-hmm. This particular instance, this site is surrounded on two sides by 2-acre lots where you have one house on 2 acres. They're proposing an intensity. If you take that 100 beds and you divide it by the 3.97 acres and you divide it again by 2.39 to try to figure out what would the density be if it was residential, it would be 10 units per acre, equivalency. Mm-hmm. If we're talking apples to apples and you want to pretend it's residential, it would be a 10 unit per acre use, and that's next to one house on 2 acres on the two sides, and then Century Village on the other side, which is a multifamily density. So I think you could focus on, this is the only zoning district other than PO, as Wendy said, that is consistent. But I think it could be on your purview about conditions of approval that staff could apply. It does have a cause, so there is the ability for recommendations on conditions of approval to mitigate the differences between one house per 2 acres versus, essentially 10 units per acre. That I believe is in your purview. And then, of course, this is a recommendation by this board. The ultimate decision is made by the Board of County Commissioners at the end of the month.
Right. And planning there was an issue. You can speak now.
Well, it seemed like she had helped answer your question a little bit, but so not to get too much into the weeds with the planning side, because that has been heard by the Planning Commission as their advisory body. But the Planning Division did, when the applicant submitted the application, they submitted a private amendment request to go from MR5 to institutional. So the Planning Division reviewed the request for institutional, and the comprehensive plan does not have location criteria for institutional. In 1989, when the comprehensive plan was adopted, the majority of the institutional land uses were where there were institutional type uses, such as places of worship and things. They were assigned institutional. So looking at how the institutional uses generally tend to serve the neighboring community by way of places of worship, assembly nonprofit, places such as Elks Club and things like that, for example, the skilled nursing homes. Planning made a determination that limiting the square footage and the number of beds that were being proposed in the zoning application without further guidance from the comprehensive plan as far as institutional location policy made a recommendation finding of approval. And, ultimately, as Wendy had pointed out, the Planning Commission, when they heard this item, recommended denial of that application. And in further to Lisa's point, it certainly is within the board's purview to recommend a lower cap on the square footage intensity or a lower cap on the number of beds. Potentially those can be worked out for conditions that would be on the flu amendment as well.
So one more follow-up on the Planning Commission on this particular. I missed that before.
The Planning Commission, when they heard the future land use amendment application
To go to institutional.
After they heard testimony and reviewed it, they recommended denial.
And that application goes to the board because that's just a recommendation. It's still part of the BCC package for later this month, correct? So we're deciding on
the zoning side.
A zoning application. We're making a decision on a recommendation on a zoning application on a land use change that the Planning Commission has recommended denial of. No, I stated it correctly.
Okay.
The Planning Commission has recommended denial on a zoning change to institutional, and we're deciding for a recommendation on the zoning application portion of it.
Madam Chair, if I may try to clarify things that might muddy the waters. Some of staff's analysis, looking at the standards of approval, are based on the assumption that the board will approve the future land use amendment. So when you're talking about consistency, compatibility, their hands are a bit tied, because if the board were to approve it, then how can they say, under those specific parameters that it's not consistent or it's not compatible? What Lisa was saying was correct. Your purview is more kind of more focused, more specific. If there's issues if you think there are specific issues of compatibility regarding buffers or regarding, setbacks.
Size of structures, location of buildings.
But bottom line is, some of staff's recommendations within their analysis are based on the assumption that the board will ultimately approve the future land use amendment, because if the board doesn't, this disappears.
No, I understood that, but the future land use amendment, when it went to Planning Commission, was recommended to be denied. Like, their recommendation was no to go to Board of County Commissioners. That's what I was trying to make clear. Okay, I have one last thing, Madam Chair. Sorry about this. I just wanted to make a correction, because I believe it's a correction, because the speakers, I believe, were all sworn in, and as such were testifying. And I do believe that residents can testify as to the character and compatibility of things in their community, especially to the character of the community. So it was a misstatement by the applicant who said that there was no competent substantial evidence presented here, because there was competent substantial evidence presented about the character of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you good? All right.
Good.
Just to add on to that, I won't get into details, but it's generally public opinion that's unsubstantiated or not based on fact probably wouldn't be considered competent substantial evidence. If it is fact-based, or if you have an expert speaking, or if you have staff's opinion, professional opinions that are based on facts and research, those tend to be.
But we did have residents who were describing, the streets in the neighborhood, and details about the neighborhood, and we can find those as facts as this board.
It's within your discretion to determine what you believe is competent substantial evidence, and yes, if their factual observations or statements go towards one of the criteria, I can't think of them off the top of the head, but if it's talking about traffic issues, and they're just kind of, if it's not based on fact or evidence.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Vinokur?
No, nothing. I'll make a motion whenever, if anybody wants to.
Okay. Commissioner Mendoza, any comments, questions?
No.
No. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions. So as I understand... Oh, there you go. Very good. Okay, thank you. All right, as I understand it, currently it's zoned where a congregate living facility limited to 47 beds could be placed on that property. And that congregate living facility could be used as a drug rehab place or not?
No.
Could not. Okay. But in considering the zoning change, we can't consider the potential use of it as a drug rehab place. Is that correct?
You can consider any of the potential uses that could be there. As part of the planning application, I believe they have a proposed condition to limit the use only to a skilled nursing and residential treatment facility.
Are we allowed to deny the rezoning request on the basis that the intended use is as a rehab facility?
No, I would stick to the standards that are before you. We don't have a Class A approval request for that specific use. You would have to recommend denial because you felt that the rezoning didn't meet one of those standards that Wendy read.
Right, and that's sort of what I'm trying to get at, what we're allowed to consider in considering this rezoning request, because a lot of the residents here, obviously, they're concerned that this is going to be a drug rehab facility, and the question really for me and for the board, I think, is, are we allowed to consider that in approving or denying it? But what I would go to, I think one of the basis for that the applicant has to show is that there are changed conditions or circumstances, and what I understand is what they have submitted is that there is a steadily rising demand for short-term treatment facilities within Palm Beach County. And frankly, I don't think I've really heard any evidence that really substantiates that other than some loose statements.
Changed circumstances is one of those standards that is probably the most open-ended for the applicant and for boards to consider. The changed circumstance in this case would be, if it's approved by the Board of County Commissioners, the changed circumstance would be the board just adopted the future land use designation of institutional. This is just the challenge of these when they're running a concurrent future land use change and rezoning at the same time. But if you can consider that standard independently, and that's one of those ones that's typically it's a challenge on a site-specific basis to demonstrate that this particular site is no longer suitable for the current zoning district because overall at a grand scale at the countywide level there's issues with a demand. Changed circumstances should be narrowly tailored to the actual particular site, not like market demand or things that are outside the confines of the site.
Fair enough, but that seems to be what the applicant is basing it upon, like overall county demands. It's from my read of this application. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion of denial of the application due to, and I have to cite which standard it goes against. Correct?
First of all, it's a recommendation.
Yeah.
And
recommend denial.
Yeah, just
subject to D, change conditions or circumstances. It does not meet that.
I don't think it's G.
Second.
G is changed conditions and circumstances. D is...
Oh, sorry. Yes,
D is effect on the natural environment.
Right.
So again, there's consistency with the plan, consistency with the code, compatibility, effect on the natural environment, the development pattern, and adequate public facilities and changed circumstances.
Yes, I was looking at the first one there. It's G. Yes, page 13. G, changed conditions or circumstances.
So just for the benefit of, a couple new commissioners, and we've actually had a lot of turnover, by recommending denial based on that criteria, you're indicating that you do not believe there is competent substantial evidence on the record to support a finding that that criteria has been met.
Correct.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Vanacore. I have a second by Commissioner Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion of denial passes.
Okay, so this is a recommendation. This particular application will be heard at the end of the month. I think it's the 27th.
Yes, and for everyone in the audience that would like to attend, the Board of County Commissioners is downtown, which we call downtown as staff, at the Board of County Commissioners building on Olive Avenue, 301 North Olive, I believe.
Yep.
It will not be in this room. 301.
North Olive.
301, 301, isn't the same?
You said 311.
I was
301.
I was like, I thought you said the same. All right. So I know we have comments from Lisa. Is there anyone else that want to make comments, or?
The only comments that I have are welcome to the new commissioners, and please reach out to us on if we can disable your paper packet. Paper packets are not only the cost of postage and printing, but it's a lot of staff time to assemble and bring to the post office. We don't usually get them out till the day, a week prior. You could see that the one that you received today was an entire ream of paper. We would love to go digital for you. Any of you, just message me after the meeting on what you don't want to do. We don't have to debate it here. Thank you so much.
I'll also point out next month, March, we'll just kind of give an update on ethics as well as voting of chair and vice chair.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Second. Motion made by Caliendo, seconded by Commissioner Williams. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.